sometimes you have to wait and the Spirit moves. And Sandy, would you come up now, please? Sandy and I are going to do this together. The litany that we said everything that I had on my list of things that I wanted to say to you. And so I don't need to do that. But I was the moderator for the whole year, from the interim till the last 6 months. And I think originally you had said you'd probably be here about a year, but we've extended a little bit. And the one thing I do want to say is that for me personally, it's been a very meaningful 18 months that you've been here. You've made me look at things in the Bible much more clearly. You've been very, I got to look at my list. You've been insightful, you've been warm, you've been friendly, you've been funny, you've been responsible, you've been responsive to people, you've been pastoral, both in the pulpit and in the rest of your work. You've been bright in mind, in person, and spirit. And for me, I've learned a lot, and I have many new understandings. And so I wish you well personally. And with that, there are a couple of committees that want to come forth. The diaconate and is it outreach? Stewardship. Okay. And I will now give this to Sandy.
Muff, would you come up here on behalf of Stewardship? Muff is going to represent that committee.
The Stewardship Committee deals with time, talent, and treasure as far as the church is concerned. And in saying goodbye to you, Ed, we took a little bit of our time to create a memento to express how much we have treasured our time with you. And I'd like to read some of the things that some folks have said. The Stewardship Committee is comprised of Paula, Dan Tinkham, Jaylene Bankston, John Kreitler, Bill Guile, and me. Lots of thank yous here. Thank you for your sincere efforts to lead our church community in a light of love, understanding, and collaboration during this time of transition. You will be missed by many. Thank you for your deep spiritual insight. You shared this insight with passion and openness, challenging each of us to rethink our relationship with money, as well as time and talent. From someone else, thank you for your many inspirational and occasionally provocative discussions. Our discussion of one particular verse has opened my eyes. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. What more needs to be said? Thanks for sharing your time with us. Your ability to simplify complicated topics has guided us to new heights in our understanding and practice of stewardship. Thank you for your insights, candor, and steadfastness. We will miss you. This is for you. Thank you.
And now I ask Maureen Bastille to come forward with a presentation on behalf of the diaconate.
Well, everything that I was going to say, like everyone else, has already been said. I want to thank you for giving me the courage and the confidence to get up and speak from the lectern. In February, I was scared to death, and he came over to me and he said, "Turn around and look at the congregation. Do you see any enemies?" So I turned around and I said, "No." And he just gave me that warm look. And I was able to do it, so I thank him for that. Beth Shahadi is our chair, as you know, and on May 30th, she had a complete knee replacement. So she's not here, but she did send me a email that had this in it, and I thought, this is appropriate, and it's her words, so I'm going to read it. We so appreciate Reverend Ed's leadership as our interim pastor and wish to acknowledge his contribution to us in our spiritual development. And this was his first interim experience. I'm sure it was a good one for us. I hope it was for you. And there's a little something in here for Barb as well, your partner, because without a good, understanding partner, pastors would have a tougher job. And for you.
All right, before I close out, is there anyone else that I was not aware wanted to make a presentation?
Sandy?
Yes.
I don't have a presentation.
I think as one of the leaders of the Open and Affirming Committee, it would be remiss not to recognize you for helping us to be brave and to challenge our whole church to reach this milestone. And just from the bottom of my heart and all of our hearts, we thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Kathy. Was there anyone else before I close out? And we have lovely treats for everyone down at coffee hour. Well, Mr. Kreitler, did you want to say something? I will bring this over to you. Oh, John's got one for John.
I may fall flat on my face, Ed. If I do, it's not because of you. I think we all need to remember, because sometimes it's hard to do so, that Ed's arrival here was a time of great turmoil in our church. Chaos might have been a better word. We had no staff in the office. We had no acting financial secretary. We had no secretary. We were producing the bulletin in the back of seat of Paula's car, I believe it was, with volunteer help, which was doing the very best they could and working extremely hard. But there were volunteers who'd never done the job before. In comes Ed. A challenging situation, to say the least. We should be eternally grateful for the organization, the sense of leadership and purpose that he provided, which was key to this church at the moment that he arrived and provided it. Since that time, in 18 months, it's hard to believe, we've completely rewritten our personnel policies under his guidance and leadership. We have hired an entire new staff, and we are moving forward very nicely there. We have a whole review process going for our staff, employees, which we've never had before. So, Ed, being one of the 3 people who got to sit on your calling committee, I want to tell you how much I appreciate all that you did in the calm, gentle, reassuring way you led this church for 18 months. Thank you.
All right, last call before I close this out. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Ed. Maureen, I didn't have a good time here. I had a great time. And part of the reason for it was coming in here without experience and relying on just the 2 legs of some training and my own intuition. I discovered a congregation that was very, very moving, very inspirational in their work with one another, and surprisingly patient with a whole bunch of questions. So thank you for that. And of course, my way was made much easier, maybe I'll say even spoiled, after I've served as an interim, as a solo pastor, by my colleague, my very competent colleague Paula, in whom you all have wisely placed your trust, both before my coming and now after my leaving and before the arrival of your new settled senior pastor, Neil. With all of these hands, your own and Paula's, not to mention God's, what more could you ask for?
Thank you. I have a magnet on my fridge, and it helps me every day. It says, we meet people for a reason. They're either a blessing or a lesson. But I think we got real lucky with you because it was both lessons and blessings. And you mentioned the questions. On transition team, I can tell you I've never heard so many questions. Sometimes we had answers, sometimes we didn't. But it was always good to think and to move forward in new ways. So I hope as you continue your interim ministry that the lessons you learned here will continue to be a blessing to those who you serve next. Thank you so much.
I'll pay it forward.
He said he'll pay it forward, and on behalf of the congregation, we would like to present you with this. Barb, would you come up? Hi, Barb. It would be nice to have a picture. So, downstairs for the good food that everyone's been waiting for.